We're gabbing with Greenwood. Greenwood Gab. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Greenwood Gab. I'm Sarah Reynolds.
And I'm Natalie Browning.
And today we're going to get into some Longwood traditions. But first, before we listen to our expert, G.A.M.E. Krogh, who will give us the deets behind, do the kids still say deets? Probably not. I think we said deets maybe. In 1995. But before we get into the background and the archival context of those events with G.A.M.E. Krogh, I thought it'd be fun to share some of our own memories. So Natalie, do you have a fun Longwood tradition memory?
I mean, I think it's safe to say my favorite tradition is the Longwood scarves. So I actually got my first scarf on my second day of working at Longwood. I started in 2016, and because of the way our start dates work out, I ended up starting on a Thursday, and I had my orientation day. So then that Friday was first Friday back. I went with one of the other librarians and got my wristband, got my scarf that afternoon. You know, my very first week here, I was already thrown into some of the Longwood traditions. I've actually gotten a scarf ever since. So I have a scarf for every year I've been here. Hopefully I can keep that going. Lately, how I get my scarf is volunteering. So I volunteer for the game, either handing out wristbands or the library had a water stop for the last game. So I handed out water to the very hot, tired marchers.
Yes.
That is my favorite Longwood tradition. Sarah, what are some of your experiences with Longwood traditions?
Something that popped into my mind while you were talking actually was I have attended one Kai burning, and that was the library actually got a commendation that year. And so a group of us from the library attended, and they had a special section for the people who were being recognized to stand in. It was something that I had heard about. You know, I'd seen some of the Kai walks that had happened. I'd found Kai droppings, but to be there on Eiler Field, which right now is a construction zone, so it's a little different now, but to be on Eiler Field with the bonfire and you hear kind of this murmuring off in the distance and you're not sure exactly, like, did I just step into a horror film and people are going to be like burned on this bonfire because there's this creepy in the dark, and you're just like, what is happening? And it gets louder and it gets louder, and then all of a sudden Kai comes walking out and they're all dressed in their robes, and you know, their faces are covered, so you have no idea who they are. And they're singing this song about the spirit of Kai walking on. But it was a really cool experience to both be a part of an organization that was recognized, but also to witness such a grand tradition that's been going on for so long in the flesh.
Yeah. I was actually there too. So yeah, it was definitely an experience. I know, speaking of like volunteering for things, obviously you were at the water stop too at the march. And I know you've also volunteered for late night breakfast. Do you have any stories about that or?
Well, I don't know if there's anything too special to share. I was one of the people that cleaned up the tables and, you know, bust the dishes when people were done. So it wasn't a very glamorous job, but it was great experience just to see the students out having some fun that night before exams get kicked off, that they can remember that it's not, you know, yes, of course we want you to succeed academically, but it's not just about that, right? There's something about going to a college, and to Longwood especially, that, you know, you build that community with your fellow students, with the faculty and staff that work here, that we're all a part of this and we all care about each other and we all want each other to succeed. So even though I didn't have a very glamorous job and I might have had some pruny fingers by the end of it all, I was still happy to participate.
And I will say it's really special how much the library gets to participate in these traditions. Like, obviously we volunteer for things, but the building itself, also we tend to have Kai banners hung up here. We've had Kai droppings in the library. Obviously, we've had a commendation that we were just discussing. It's just really special to just have the library itself be a part of all of that too.
Yes. And the immortal words of Dean Brent Roberts, we are the beating heart of campus.
That was a great Brent Roberts' impression. I'm sure he will be proud.
All right. So without further ado, let's move on to our interview portion of this podcast. And we'll talk now with G.A.M.E. Krogh. All right. Now we are here with G.A.M.E. Krogh, archivist and records manager for Longwood campus as well as Greenwood Library. We all know that Longwood is an institution steeped in tradition. And as we begin this new semester, we wanted to talk to G.A.M.E. a little bit about what some of those traditions are. So G.A.M.E., if you want to take a moment just to reintroduce yourself to us, if you want to add an additional fun fact, we'd love to hear another one because we love facts.
And we love fun things.
Yes, we all love fun things. So I'm G.A.M.E. Krogh. I'm the archives and records specialist here at Longwood. This time, my fun fact will be that I played trumpet in high school. I mostly think that's funny because not a lot of girls play trumpet. I was the only girl the entire time I played trumpet. I think I maybe met one other trumpet player who was a girl ever. That's my fun fact.
You know what is funny, as you're talking about being a trumpet player, I was reminded when we did the episode with Carlton and Brent, they talked about how trumpet players were kind of the cool kids of the band. So do you think you were a cool kid of the band?
Absolutely not. No, that was the drum players. So I don't know. I mean, I think the trumpet players are like adjacent to like trombone. Like trombones are kind of like cool, offbeat. I think a little bit jazzy because that's a big instrument in jazz, but the trumpet players are like trombone adjacent, but not cool at all. I mean, it was a high school and it's all high school. I'm surrounded by all high school boys. So they're high school boys. So just imagine that. Not cool at all.
Do we want to get started? The G.A.M.E., the greatest athletic march ever, and the giving of scarves. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the origins of that?
Yeah, so the G.A.M.E. tradition actually is one of the newest traditions at Longwood. So it actually started in 2010, and it's pretty much been the same ever since then. We have this greatest athletic march. We march from campus up to the athletic complex on Longwood Avenue, and students get these fancy scarves that showcase kind of Longwood pride and support. And then we get to watch a soccer or field hockey game up at the fields. And it's just an exciting, rah-rah Longwood kind of pep rally moment. And the cool thing I recently learned about the G.A.M.E. is that the second G.A.M.E. that was held in 2011 was actually the G.A.M.E. where Elwood was revealed as the Longwood mascot. So before that, it had kind of been like a Lancer night. And so they kind of revamped the whole mascot. So Elwood was actually presented to campus at the G.A.M.E., which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, I heard a rumor once that before Elwood was selected, there was, some different options. And one of them was just like a hunk of wood. Can you verify that rumor?
Yeah. So we actually tried to find like an image of the wood is what the other mascot option was. But apparently the students and the community did get some kind of vote on who the mascot of Longwood would be between 2010 and 2011. And it was going to be Elwood or the wood. I don't know what the wood looked like or what the, style was going to be, but we tried to find some record of that and couldn't. But in the newspapers, it does report that their other option was the wood.
So G.A.M.E., do you know why the scarf is the symbol of the G.A.M.E.? Like, why did we pick a scarf?
I don't exactly know, but I know it's meant to be kind of a physical representation of school spirit and school pride. I know one of my favorite things is to look at the pictures after the greatest athletic march, and everyone's displaying their scarves proudly. And I think too, as you walk around campus, you visit faculty offices, people display their scarves. I have mine on my wall, so very cliche. I think it's just meant to be a symbol of our Longwood spirit, which I think makes us special and unique. And one of the reasons we have so many traditions, and a lot of them are very special and unique.
I also like seeing pictures on social media where students travel, or like for the Brock experiences, they always post a picture with the scarf.
Yeah, we take our scarves with us and pose with them in all sorts of places. So yeah, I think just a kind of something to get people hyped and to be able to show their spirit kind of in a tangible way.
What's the next big tradition that pops up?
Yeah, so the next one is going to be Convocation, which is actually one of my favorite Longwood traditions. From my last time I was on the podcast, my fun fact was that I was a student here. And so I graduated in 2007. So I actually got to participate in Convocation. So I literally waited 4 years in great anticipation of getting to participate in the Convocation tradition. And that one is kind of evolved from this tradition of senior capping, which was actually introduced in 1922.
Wow.
And it was just where underclassmen would cap seniors. They would present them with their mortar board, so that fancy cap you wear at graduation. And it would just be a recognition that you're now a senior and you're going into your senior year. So just a special celebration for them. And it was actually held separately from Convocation, which I thought was interesting originally. And then in 1977, they added a twist on the capping ceremony. It was still separate from Convocation, but they had the underclassmen actually create tassels for their senior caps. And so they use like yarn and ribbons and things to make tassels instead of giving the seniors tassels like you would get at graduation. And then we just took that to a whole new level. And the tassels turned into these really like elaborate devices with photos and balloons and all these crazy things that represented each individual. And then we took it one step further, and then they became 3D objects on top of the hats, and how big and how high and how impressive can we make them over time. And I kind of feel like every class has just tried to outdo the last one. Like, how big and can we go? And I think they're just a really special kind of representation of each individual person. And that's just really cool to me.
As a person who participated in Convocation, what was on your cap?
Maybe this is another interesting fun fact about me. It's actually super embarrassing, I think. There is a photo of it,
which will be in the YouTube video, I promise.
Yes, there's a little figure of Superman on the top, and he is standing in front of a Stargate, which is from a TV show that was really popular in the 2000s that I loved. It was made of concrete, so it was very, very heavy. And then also my friend very diligently attached a Superman cape to the back of my cap. You can't see that in the pictures, but it's there.
Can you talk to us next about Oktoberfest and that tradition?
Yeah, so Oktoberfest has gone through a lot of changes. It originally started as Circus and was hosted by an organization called Alpha Kappa Gamma. And so the first Circus, I think, was actually hosted in the 1920s. So again, a pretty old tradition. And in the 1960s, Alpha Kappa Gamma wanted to join Mortarboard, which is an honor society. So they couldn't keep their name. And so in this transition, they decided to call themselves Geist, which is a German word for ghost. When they changed their name to Geist, they didn't want to keep the circus theme anymore. So they changed the theme to Geist Festival, which was kind of bland. And they decided to kind of tie into that German word, they would change it to Oktoberfest. And so then they kind of reworked the theme. So originally in Circus, we had clowns, a parade, a midway is what they called it. And essentially they just kind of tweaked all those things to turn it into Oktoberfest. We don't do the parade anymore, but we do still have clowns. So we do still usually see a clown or two. We have the Oktoberfest spirit leaders, which are kind of a revamp of the clowns to a little bit of an extent. And then the midway is really what the booths are now. So all the student organizations that set up their booths and sell things and do carnival games or sell homemade things, that sort of thing, that's all from kind of this midway tradition when it was Circus. So it's changed names, but like the essence of it, I think, has still kind of remained. So with Oktoberfest, now we have a tradition that we now call Color Wars. And so that's a big part of Oktoberfest now. And Color Wars really comes from this tradition of the Color Cup, which was something the Athletic Association founded, where classes, the two color classes, the green and the red. And I actually don't know where that originated. I'm still trying to research that. Anybody have any insights? Let me know. But the even classes are red and the odd classes are green, and they would compete in athletic events. So basketball, field hockey, volleyball, all sorts of different things, and earn points depending on how you placed in the athletic event, and you would earn those points for your class. And then at the end of the year, the athletic association would actually award the color cup to those classes. And then this kind of evolved into something called paint battle. So the athletic association stopped doing these kind of intramural tournaments, but the students still had a little bit of animosity between the classes, and they would take paint and destroy each other's banners with them. So like try to paint all the green banners red and all the red banners green. And so they would do this. They also had dolls. They had Gang Green and Susie Red and White, I believe is her name. And you had to try and steal the other class's doll. I've never seen them. I'm very intrigued. Also, if you're out there, any alumni who might have any remnants of Gang Green or Sally Red and White, I'm very interested. So they had these kind of all these back and forths. And eventually that turned into Color Wars, where we have one big event where we do some field day activities, tug of war and other things, the balloon bullseye events. And then we just throw colored paint at each other for fun. And I'm going to say we only because I get to do it at alumni weekend. So we still do it even after you graduate. You can come back for alumni weekend and throw paint at your friends across the way. And it's just always a lot of fun and silly. You know, the only place where red and green make blue.
There you go. So do you want to divulge to us whether or not you are a red or a green class?
I am very proudly a green class. I actually, another fun fact, I still have my keychain that I got when I came here as a freshman. They gave all the freshmen a green keychain. It says class of 2007, and I still have it, and it is still on my keys. I'm a sucker for Longwood traditions, if you can't tell. We're a ways away from spring weekend, but really quickly, you know, spring weekend is kind of the opposite event to Oktoberfest, and started out originally as May Day. So that one is started in 1902, so even older. And May Day is just a really popular holiday at the time where people celebrated spring, and we had a May Day festival. We had students in our training school who would participate. They would dance around a maypole and they would put on these big elaborate skits. And May Day was originally held on campus and then moved to the Longwood Dell. So actually moved up to the Longwood House on Longwood Avenue, and they held it in the kind of the field there, and people from town and all over would come to see it. They had these big elaborate dances and skits and things. And then in 1973, they decided that was the last year they could do May Day because they changed the academic calendar. So students wouldn't be here in May anymore. And so the students didn't really want to give up the tradition quite yet. And so they decided to call it Spring Weekend instead and hold it in April. And so that's how we ended up with Spring Weekend. And then one of the big events during Spring Weekend is Ozzeball, which was actually started in 1987 by the Longwood Ambassadors. And I was actually talking to an alumni this alumni weekend who was a member of the Longwood Ambassadors and kind of remembers them like brainstorming ideas for spring weekend. They're like, let's, play volleyball in the mud and have a tournament. And she's like, this is not a good idea. And she says she was really surprised by how like people really loved this game of Ozzeball that they came up with, and we've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, for 35 years now.
Yeah.
Ozzeball was a good idea.
Yeah, it was a great idea, I think. And it's just a fun chance to compete against your friends or with your friends against other Longwood students and get messy and have a little fun.
Yeah, throwing paint.
Yeah.
Ozzeball. Yeah, seems to be a theme here.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Like, each weekend event needs a little bit of dirt and mess thrown in there to have a little fun. I mean, I think that's some of the fun of this too. Like, we don't take ourselves too seriously. Like, have some fun while we're at it. We have a lot of great traditions, and we obviously are here to learn and grow, but we're also having fun while we're doing it. So that's fun, I think, and special.
Along with these traditions, Longwood also has a tradition of secret societies. Do you want to share with us any top secret knowledge?
I don't have a lot of top secret knowledge. They keep everything pretty hush hush. But obviously, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention Chi, founded in 1900 by the first by a group of girls who were in the first 3 sororities that were founded here. So it was made up of members of Tri Sigma, Kappa Delta, and Zeta Tau Alpha, and it was a sorority of sororities, essentially, as how it was founded. founded, and it kind of evolved over time. They started to kind of promote/enforce the honor code in the 30s and 40s. They wanted to make sure that Longwood girls represented themselves in the right ways, and sometimes maybe got a bad rap for that. And then they kind of evolved a little bit. And then in the 1970s, they changed some of their iconography. We have the rotunda symbol on campus that you can see that represents Chi, and it's bad luck to step on it. But the 4 pillars of the symbol actually represent student life. So social, recreational, intellectual, and spiritual. And now they really just represent the spirit of Longwood. So the spirit of Longwood walks with Chi is part of the song. And, Chi is the spirit of Longwood. And they're just, again, I think meant to promote this school spirit and our love of Longwood and the institution. And it was always special to have friends find Chi droppings, or to find a Chi dropping. It's always, or when are they going to walk? It's always just a mystery. And then, of course, at the end of the year, they do their burning, where they commend individuals and groups and organizations for their service to Longwood, which is also a really special thing. And it's a really special thing to get one if you are lucky enough to do so. So
we keep up with the trends here at Greenwood Gab. And I know Longwood University has been sharing a lot on their TikTok and sharing obviously to Facebook and Instagram about the secret societies. And there's a video of like everybody walking around the symbol on the sidewalk. But also, we have other symbols on the sidewalks. Yes. So we have the crowns that they've also been hyping up on their social media. So would you talk about that?
Yeah, so the crowns actually represent Princeps. So Princeps is another Longwood secret society that was founded in 1992, so newer than Chi. And they were founded to develop, encourage leadership in the college community. Actually, Princeps is Latin for leadership. And their symbol is the 7-pointed crown. We have 7 black 7-pointed crowns on campus, and it's good luck to step on those, and it's even better luck if you take a trip around campus and walk on all 7 of them. I'll let you find them on your own. Then also Princeps recognizes students for their academic achievements. So they present students with red and black 7-pointed 7s on their doors for President's List and Dean's List from a semester.
And then I know that there's also a third secret society that is even newer, right? Do you know anything about them?
Yeah. So, and they're old and new, actually. Okay. Yeah. So it's actually Cahoots. So Cahoots was actually founded in 1966. So they're old, and I will say they were kind of formed as a counter to Chi. So at the time, Chi was really responsible for enforcing the honor code, and like I said, had maybe a little bit of bad rap. So Cahoots founded itself because they didn't want to take themselves as seriously as Chi, and they wanted to promote friendship through laughter. And so they were a little goofy and silly. They have some pictures of them in the yearbooks, or them in weird costumes and just, not taking themselves too seriously. Mm-hmm. And they actually had freezings in October. So they would kind of do the same thing as Chi, commend certain organizations and groups, but they would do it at a freezing instead of a burning. So yeah, you could see the difference. And so then they kind of dwindled out of existence in the 70s by the time we became coeducational. And then in 2018, they were revived from the ashes and brought back. I like to follow them on Twitter. They have some really corny jokes that I'm a sucker for. So
I didn't know they had a Twitter account. We're going to have to follow that one.
Yes, yeah, they do. They're just little comments on Longwood life, or just corny dad jokes that are, again, don't take themselves too seriously. Have a little fun with it.
So I want to go back just as I was sitting here thinking. So you mentioned Chi droppings and how exciting it is to find them. What's the coolest Chi dropping you've ever found?
Oh, I only ever found one Chi dropping myself personally. And technically someone stashed it for me. Like, it was meant for me. So like finding it wasn't really that exciting. But we have one in our collection is the motorcycle Batman. So that one I really like. I also really like, Sarah, you have the keyboard.
I do.
So you have the Chi keyboard, and it has all the date letters and numbers from the year that it was found, like kind of colored in gold or something like that. And I like that one too.
Yeah. The fun thing about that is I found that in the library, and I was upstairs doing some work, and I saw this keyboard sitting on a shelf, and I immediately was like, what are these students doing? Why is this not with the computer? And then I took it down and realized it was not one of our keyboards, but it was actually a Kai dropping. And then I was excited that I have a Kai dropping.
Yeah. And then I think last year, this was like the most impressive thing I've ever seen. There was actually a Princeps bench that was outside the library for a couple days that was technically a dropping, but this was a full size, like 3-person bench that someone had built for Princeps as a Princeps dropping, and was just, I was like, wow, that's dedication and effort. And it was just so cool and impressive. I was like, people are going to be waiting out here to take this when it's available to take home. I was like, somebody's going to want this. So that was pretty cool to see.
Speaking of, people wanting to have these things, do you know, or can you touch on the banners that we get in the library, and like people will actually like camp out until the time they're allowed to take them?
Yeah. I mean, I think just again, Kai is the spirit of Longwood. And so we want to show our spirit and our love of Longwood. And Kai droppings are not something you find every day. And so when you get the chance, you got to jump at it and take the ones you find. So I think that's and the Kai banners are always, they're supportive, good luck on exams, welcome to campus, we're excited to see you. They're always kind of encouraging and supportive. And I think that's a good feeling that people like to hold on to.
So are there any other traditions that we haven't touched on yet?
I mean, I think the other two I'll point out, because they're on the Longwood website, are late night breakfast and the other exam week traditions. Again, I think that's just a special kind of representation of the Longwood community, where we have these events to kind of help students manage stress and enjoy, the last week of school as much as you can while you're trying to finish all your papers and take these tests. Late night breakfast is a newish tradition. And with that, study pause, which is also newer. And it's just a chance for students to relax and get, I think, also really good interactions with staff and faculty. I think that's another really unique thing about Longwood, where you can get to know your professors and know the staff, and you feel included and part of this greater community. You're not just a student going to class every day. And so that's just a cool little thing. And then there's also the big event, which is usually held on Martin Luther King Day, and is a chance just for Longwood students to give back to the community. So that was one that was actually started while I was here as a student. They were like, instead of giving you off, what we were going to do is turn this into a service event where we give back. And so I think that's also just important, that Longwood isn't just its own little bubble. We're in part of this larger community of Farmville, and we can do things to aid that community and be supportive.
So I think I'm hearing, some themes. We don't take ourselves too seriously. And even in some of the secret societies that may be a little bit more serious, where they still have fun, like we still have Cahoots. And we're always supportive and service oriented. So I think that's a good kind of way to wrap up.
Yeah.
We have all of these traditions, but they all tie together.
Yeah. I think, and it's a broader look at Longwood as a whole, like who we are and what we represent as employees, as students, kind of this, we care, but we have a little fun while we're at it. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. It's always great to have G.A.M.E around. She's a wealth of knowledge on Longwood's history.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I love Longwood traditions. Obviously, as a student, these were major parts of my life for 4 years. So to get to come back and kind of talk about some of the history is super fun for me.
Well, we look forward to having you back again. We know you'll be back. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, we're back with just Natalie and I. Thank you to G.A.M.E for sharing all of that knowledge with us.
Yeah, and thank you to G.A.M.E for adding to our knowledge of which library staff can play which instruments. So we learned that G.A.M.E played the trumpet.
Yes. Are you agreeing with library staff member who has not disclosed to us that you play a musical instrument? You better. We want to know these things.
Yeah, and you need to let us know if we need to rewrite our theme song to include more instruments, because we will. Well, Sarah will.
I know. I already promised Carlton once he learns the accordion, we're going to revamp it. So we can add in more.
Yes. Although G.A.M.E did disclose when we stopped recording that she no longer plays the trumpet.
She was not confident in her trumpet playing abilities at this point. But if we give her enough notice, she might be able to pull it out, dust it off, practice a little bit.
Maybe. But we were excited to talk about all of the different Longwood traditions. I will definitely say I learned something. I didn't really know all of the background of Oktoberfest.
You know, and one thing I was thinking of, we were talking about how the traditions have really evolved to the needs of the current students and what makes sense. So we're kind of continuing that line of tradition, but in new and interesting ways. What if we are Oktoberfest? I mean, obviously, Mortarboard's already chosen Oktoberfest theme this year, but what if next year's theme is Circus, like Britney Spears?
Ooh.
Right? So it'd be like Oktoberfest, but throw it back to Circus. And, you know, I don't know. Britney seems like the kind of person that you might be able to talk into coming to Longwood.
As Dean Brent Roberts always says, Sarah, I bet you a shiny quarter that Britney will not come.
Maybe a Britney impersonator?
That'd be fun. Hey, I'd take a Britney impersonator.
We could afford a Britney impersonator.
What has this podcast become that we talk about Britney Spears this much?
So before we wander off into any other dark corners of our minds, we should probably say have a great to this episode.
Yes. Have a great. I actually did own a keyboard and I could play like one song and it was like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. But
hey,
so
Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star is also A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So you could play both of those songs.
So when I said I have no musical instrument, like I did own one for a while, but I didn't really take the time to learn to play.